We have some amazing developments that are coming forward about the Varginha UFO crash landing and alien body recovery that happened in Brazil. This work is being done by documentarian James Fox, and he has been covering this for several years now. And recently, many of the witnesses that were there at the event that saw the actual entities and witnessed the crash itself have come forward and now testified. In fact, they have officially testified, and many of them have tried to even come to the United States in order to testify to Congress and other White House officials. This is breaking news. This is a lot that is happening right now, and it's one of the UFO crash landing cases that I think has the most evidence and the most credible witnesses since the Roswell incident. Now, even though this case has been developing for a couple of decades, this is all coming to a head now because these witnesses are getting their courage to step forward and tell the full story, including doctors, people that were there and actually saw the entity firsthand, and even family members of soldiers that were there that handled the creature and then died as a result. And so we've got to get into this. There is a connection between the paranormal, UFOs, and the myths of ancient history. The clues are scattered across the landscape from a forbidden past, maybe even in your own backyard. There is a connection between the true nature of our reality, consciousness, and the unexplained. I'm Carl the Crusher. Let's explore the unknown. Before we get too far, I want to give a special shout out to all of my Patreon followers and members of the Crusher Crew Inner Circle that support me on the Patreon app, where I provide exclusive content and where I'm getting ready to pre-release an early version of my new book called Psionic Contact that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. If you want more insider information and exclusive videos and content from me, make sure and go follow my Carl Crusher Patreon page. Now we're going to get into all of the witness testimonies and hear them firsthand tell about their personal experiences with this UAP crash and with involvement with this non-human entity that they encountered as a result of that. But before we do that, some of you may not be familiar with this Varginha UFO crash landing case, so let's recap some of that by covering a little bit of an episode from the Jesse Michaels podcast, as well as some of the documentary work from James Fox himself. Check this out.
Tracked down 3 primary witnesses who reportedly saw the live alien.
Hello. It's James.
Obrigado. I'd like to start off by saying, but this is like, you know, the holy grail of witnesses for me. So I am like so happy to be here right now. Can you describe to us what happened in January of 1996?
Então, você pode descrever pra gente o que aconteceu em janeiro de 96?
A gente estava voltando do serviço que ela trabalhava.
So, it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This was not the usual way that they would take to go back home.
E olhei, falei assim, só pra elas assim, gente, olha ali.
She saw a little creature that was really sweating. There was like a little person, but with no hair whatsoever, red eyes, and 3 horns. She pointed to the other girls and started running the other way.
If they all had the opportunity to speak to the world about their experience, what would they like the world to know?
Pra mim não foi boa, não. Se fosse pra me passar por isso hoje, eu não passaria.
They said it wasn't a good experience at all. If they could choose, they wouldn't go through it again. And only people who have been through what they have been through can tell how they felt and how it all affected their lives.
How has it changed their lives?
Como isso afetou a vida de vocês?
Em tudo. No trabalho, na escola.
She said it affected everything, like from friendships to work to school, people getting away from them, people thinking they were, you know, crazy or something.
Alguém pode chegar, não, foi assim, pegamos e levamos para tal lugar.
She just says that she hopes that one day the whole thing will come clear and she will, you know, her word will be taken seriously and they'll know that she was always telling the truth.
Received an unexpected request for a meeting from the chief neurosurgeon at Hospital Regional, the same hospital where military police officers Marco Chiriz and Eric Lopes allegedly had taken the live alien they'd captured on the road. Dr. Italo Venturelli, the head neurosurgeon at Hospital Regional, was on duty in the ICU when he had the most extraordinary encounter of his life.
In this room or which room?
This room.
Right here.
Mas o vídeo que o senhor assistiu da cirurgia
The
foi...
alien was alive in this bed right here.
Deitado aqui,
So he saw the
Coberto
creature
aqui.
right
Saw
here.
the creature right there?
Coberto
Was right there.
While he was
Coberto
watching
até
the
aqui, ó.
video of the surgery.
coberto até aqui. His eyes, they were like a teardrops, red, much redder, especially right here, you know. And he was, well, partially covered. He was right here, you know, but he was still alive.
He looked at in the eyes of the creature
Yes,
in this bed.
in this bed.
And what did the
Yes.
creature say to you?
Sim.
What?
I saw the red eyes.
His face was white, his eyes were red, and he wasn't showing any suffering at all now.
If there was perhaps a possible telepathic communication.
Yes, right there, you see? As if to say, you know, something like, I'm perfectly fine, I've been well looked after.
He said, yes, for sure, a communication as someone would say, yes, I am okay, I've received care. That's what he felt from the expression of the being.
Fala sem falar.
To speak without speaking. It spoke without speaking.
According to Dr. Italo, a being underwent a procedure by his colleague, fellow neurosurgeon Dr. Marcos Vinicio Neves, who died in 2018 of a heart attack.
The other primary witness was his partner, fellow neurosurgeon who was slightly below him, Marcos Vinicis. And Marcos Vinicis, there's a lot to that story as well. He had a heart attack in 2018. He didn't survive, and he passed.
And he did surgery
He did,
on
he
the
did
alien
a little.
being.
He did a procedure on the being. Yes. Yeah, I know.
It's so, and so he died in 2018. I believe.
2018. Yes.
And Venturelli, he said he was face to face with this being, and what did he describe as far as that interaction?
He said that this is incredible. It's hard to kind of wrap my mind around it. You know, it's like I've only had a couple of cases where I'm almost kind of pinching myself during filming. One of them was with the former governor of Arizona, Fife Symington, when he confessed after 10 years that he had not only believed about the Phoenix Lights case, but that he too was a witness to the event, and then he looked into it, and he, as a pilot in the Air Force, he said that thing could not have been from here. And I said, how did you know that, Governor? And he goes, because of its size and its flight characteristics, it couldn't have been from here. It had to be otherworldly, is how he put it. And that was a moment in my career where I honestly, and I'm not just making this up, I remember sitting in my chair and I'm going, did the governor of Arizona just say that he too saw it and that he looked into it and he felt it was otherworldly? And I'm like, I think I must be dreaming. And so I'm like pinching I literally grabbed my leg and I pinched it. And I was like, no, I feel that. I'm not dreaming. Then I said, I bet the cameras aren't rolling. So I looked over at the camera to see if and then when we were with Dr. Italo, the neurosurgeon in regional hospital, that he just snuck us in the back gate, like, with all cameras rolling and the audio guys and everything. And then he starts talking about like, this is the bed, this is the ICU. I was like, holy shit. This guy's just going full Komodo. Like he's just saying, the hell with it, whatever the consequences. This is what happened. I was here. I sat with it in this bed, right here in this room for 3 to 4 minutes.
Menores do que a nossa, braço menor do que o nosso, o rosto menor do que o nosso. Uma criança de 7 anos, vamos dizer assim.
After several minutes of interaction with the being, In this exact ICU at Hospital Regional, Dr. Italo told us the military burst in and took the being, then threatened the hospital staff to remain silent.
Ask him how it feels to be sharing this information after 29 years.
E como é que o senhor se sente de estar dividindo essa informação agora depois de... Feels like crying.
Excuse me. É um ser sobrinho, né? É diferente de nós. Não tem maldade. Não vi maldade nenhuma ali.
So this is, you have a neurosurgeon who's, you know, again, extremely credentialed.
Everything to lose, nothing to gain.
Had some health scares and giving you this testimony, and he freaks out because he's going to lose his job. He ends up giving you the testimony in the cafe. His good friend had done surgery on the being.
A procedure. Marcos Venezis.
Marcos Venezis. Did he say anything about that surgery? Because what is surgery like on an alien being?
So apparently it was, and I'm not qualified to do, you know, I'm not a neurosurgeon, but from what I understand is that there was swelling from head trauma and that he had released the pressure by putting, I guess they do a little hole or something like that where it releases the pressure. It was something like that. It was a procedure to release the, from a head trauma.
See,
but
that
I would imagine it was maybe something to do with the accident. I don't know.
But that is that sort of satisfies, like if I were to throw any sort of skepticism at this, it would be, you know, how are you dealing with alien organs? Like, what do you don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, but if it's just like a head pressure, you know, release or something, that makes some sense to me.
Could have been head trauma.
How did he protect himself from the bacteria if he's doing, was he just
Who's in the ICU? Everyone in the ICU has full protective gear on.
Yep.
Okay. Because we, even just to walk in with no patient, we had to put all the gear on.
Yep.
You can't go into the ICU without it.
Yep.
You got face mask, glove, everything, apron.
And it was probably with Marcos Cerisi, there was probably some interaction with his blood because there was maybe a punctured wound or something. And
you know, I wish like hell Marcos Venezis hadn't died for so many reasons.
I mean, interviewing a guy who's done surgery on an alien being would be
incredible. It's really frustrating. However, we have not given up. Like I said, by the time your audience watches this, I've already been back, and we have a huge meeting with all the doctors, as many as we can get. So,
have you talked to his family at all?
Oh yeah.
Marcos Venezis.
Oh, Marcos Venezis' daughter. Marcos Venezis' he had a mistress, and he had a kid with the mistress. We talked with the wife, and
did they all say that?
No, they were very guarded.
Okay,
but not like, no, it didn't happen. Like, okay, well, you know, like what? And you come in as outsiders to a place. It takes a while. Like it took when the film came out. And that was actually one of the reasons why the police officer, he's like, you're doing a serious investigation. One of the reasons why I'm talking to you is you're investigating something that I participated in. Like you clearly are taking this seriously. I'm providing a platform. We are providing a platform for people to come forward and not be ridiculed, not be laughed at, taken seriously. And like, you know, kind of like first time in decades, right? So they're seeing this is a real effort to really get the truth out. And it's power in numbers, you know, and again, I think this is the beginning of the beginning on this case. I believe that. I mean, this is an extremely compelling, like new account, new cut of the case, but I think it's going to get better.
Yeah. Well, I think if you believe that, that's going to determine the outcome because you're the prime mover of a lot of this stuff. And I know you've given credit as it's due to many of these local Brazilian UFO researchers. But I think as far as mass exposure, you are helping them, you know, really get this thing out and you keep going back. And so I really admire that. If this were a court case, you would have an overwhelming amount of evidence that something happened. Whatever the thing is that you're trying to prove in court, this would be far beyond the threshold of evidence that you would need.
Now that you know more of the background of this incident and what actually occurred, I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper and see if there was actually any footage or photographic evidence of these entities that may have been captured by people in the local area. Now, I don't know if what I discovered is actually real, or if it's part of a movie set or movie props, or if this is legitimate. And so I'm going to share what I found. There is some video footage of someone walking out into the woods in heavy vegetation that seems to see some of the bodies that are there of these non-human intelligence entities that are laying out in the forest. And again, I don't know if this is real or not, so I'll let you decide for yourself. Now, again, I want to emphasize that I don't know for certain if any of this footage is legitimate, but it does seem as though some of the pieces of the puzzle fit together. As you see this individual take his handheld camera out into the forest, and in this heavy vegetation, we see glimpses of what could possibly be the alleged bodies from some of these from this UAP crash that occurred down in Varginha. You can see the individual's hands are shaking, that he doesn't really know what he's encountering. And if you can put yourself in their shoes, it would be very emotional and very intense to encounter such a thing. It is possible that this person witnessed the crash and was one of the first individuals on the scene. And there you see the bodies of the entities laying in the vegetation. You see the dark, oily skin and the red crimson colored eyes of these individuals that are laying out there with the childlike bodies with the oversized heads. You see the ridges on the top of the head, and there you see it curled up, laying on the floor, on the ground in the kind of the fetal position, as though they are deceased. This would be a very intense thing to experience personally, so I can't imagine what it must be like. And we can sit and judge the quality of this video footage. It looks as though it's being projected or just shown on a screen of some kind and then filmed with a camcorder or a cell phone as it's being filmed and projected. But we see these bodies laying out in the vegetation that fit the description of everyone that seems to have dealt with them or encountered them, including the doctor at the hospital. And it makes us question this thought that on first impression, if people that had a certain subset of beliefs or understanding about reality in the world, that this would shake your understanding. You might think that they are just some kind of creature or a demonic presence just based on their appearance. And I think we hear that often in a lot of criticism and debunking. People that do not want to deal with this topic and do not want to face it, they simply toss it into this category as though these things are evil and demonic based just on appearances. But what this incident and what similar incidents like this have to force us to do is to drop our understanding and drop our prejudice. If we are going to deal with non-human intelligence and a species from other realms, other dimensions of reality, or potentially from other planets in our galaxy or nearby galaxies that are visiting us, that if they are good or evil or benevolent or have ill intentions against us, it is up to us to drop our prejudices against these things based on their physical appearance. And we have to develop our own spiritual understanding beyond the appearances of how they may look. Just because something looks like a creature that could be evil or malevolent, that does not mean that it is so and that is the truth. They might be actually here to help us or to guard over humanity, to keep us from destroying ourselves, to help us evolve and to emerge into a higher understanding of reality and the universe and the way that we know it. And just by looking at them and judging them by physical appearance alone may be a very big misunderstanding. We've heard from people like Hal Puthoff and others that have been invited in and that they have run the statistics and run the numbers and calculations on everything as if they did full disclosure to humanity, they usually decide that it would be catastrophic. And we have to ask ourselves why that is. Why would it be so catastrophic and devastating for humanity to accept that these things might be real? And it all boils down to the fact that people that come to this conclusion or come to this understanding about reality, they have these preconceived ideas already in their mind and already in their spiritual understanding that are sort of capped or limited, that is keeping them from knowing the truth and expanding their understanding. Now, this is another video clip as well that could be related to the incident, but again, I do not know if this is just a scene from a movie or a documentary reproduction, but it also seems very compelling. We see an entity that is crouched against a wall that seems scared and looking around with the dark skin and the large teardrop-shaped eyes. And then we see this soldier step in front of the camera, telling them to stop, telling them to cut off the camera and to not film. But you have to ask yourself, if you encountered an entity like this, are you going to have prejudice and fear or an open understanding? I haven't seen any of this footage that we just watched show up in any of the documentaries done by James Fox. We don't know who actually filmed or took these photographs or if they're actual or not, but it is compelling and it does seem to fit the descriptions given by the doctors and the other witnesses. And these witnesses have recently come forward to tell their full stories, and they even raise their hand and they swear to God that the things that they're saying are true. And so we might as well give it a watch, hear what they have to say, and I will read the footnotes at the bottom so that you can all follow what's being said. I swear what I will say is simply the truth, nothing but the truth. My name is Fabio Furtado. In January 1996, me and a friend were at the farm where we worked at Tres Coracos when we saw an unidentified flying object. An abnormal object, then something we had never seen. It moved without any curves, up and down, made a Z mid-air, and went down behind the hill by the farm where we lived and worked in '96. The object was cylindrical, about the size of a school bus. I've never seen such aerial movement, even in today's top aircraft technology. That object landed. I went there the next day to check. There was a yellowish mark on the ground. I then realized that object was not of this world. I swear what I will say is the truth, only the truth. I am Carlos de Souza. I'm a geography professor. For 25 years in the state of Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm an ultralight pilot. In 1996, January 13th, I witnessed the crash of an unidentified flying object, a UFO. In Varginha, Meolini Farm, I was there for a flying event. When I noticed a cylindrical object in the sky, I thought it could be a blimp. I saw this object had serious problems. It was losing altitude with a lateral tear, a large one, with white smoke coming out. I saw it lose altitude, gain it back, loop around over the Fernando Diaz Federal Highway, cross it and crash. That's when I drove my vehicle over to Meolini Farms, where I saw much debris from this object. Then I got out of the car, assuming they would need help. I picked up one piece of it. It caught my attention. The smell was very bad, like ammonia with rotten eggs. The piece in my hand was like aluminum foil, where after crumpling it, it returned to its shape. That caught my attention. That's when many military trucks and vehicles came towards me to get me to leave, threatening me with a gun, asking me to leave. I turned around and left. From there, with a gun pointed at my face. I was scared and chose to go back to Sao Paulo, abandoning my plans to go flying. Then I stopped to have coffee and relax a bit. When 2 men in black in a dark vehicle came threatening me to shut up, be quiet, do nothing, or I'd have serious problems my whole life. I'm not sure why. Their vehicle was unmarked. I drove back to Sao Paulo. My request to you, I swear on the sacred Bible, I'd do any test, lie detector in an instant. That's what I'm saying is the truth. With all my request is for people informed on this to go public. What happened is very serious. Don't let us civilians pass for liars. We are not liars. We just want the truth, nothing but the truth. I swear that what I am about to say is the truth, only the truth. My name is Lilian Silva. I'm an early childhood teacher. On Saturday, January 20th, 1996, at around 3:20 p.m., I, Valkyria, and Katya were taking a shortcut home from work. I noticed some graffiti on a wall. I saw the creature underneath it. It was short in stature, with red eyes, brown skin as if covered in oil. Veins ran from its neck down to its arm. When I saw it, I had a terrible feeling, as if the world had stopped. A few minutes felt like a film of my life was being played. I screamed to alert the girls. "Look over there!" The creature looked at me. I looked into its eyes. It gave me a sensation that it was suffering, that it was asking for help, hiding from someone. In that short moment, when I locked eyes with it, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I said, "Guys, let's run," then started running ahead of them, toward my house. The girls looked at it, and each saw something too. All terrified, we ran toward my house. I swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. I'm Katya Xavier, one of the 3 witnesses of the Varginha case. I was 2 meters from a creature on January 20th, 1996. I, Lilian, and Valkyria were walking together through a lot. We came practically face to face with something strange and extraterrestrial. I felt great fear. It was brown with red eyes, oily skin, a large head, 3 fingers on its hand, a big foot. That changed my life. It transformed it. It seemed he was suffering, asking me for help. I couldn't move, looking at him and trying to grasp more. I was about to move in his direction. I'm going to help, disregarding the consequences. I'll help this creature, this person. When I was about to, Lilian came back and pulled me by the arm. I completely disconnected then, but I was not the same. It was all different. Why? Because it transformed me. It left me with after effects. Damn, why didn't I do something? Why did they take him? Because I spoke, they got him and did what they did. This left a mark. I felt this creature with me, always, everywhere. So I will always tell my truth. This January marks 30 years since. I'll never change a syllable, nor will I. This is my truth. I swear what I'm about to say is the truth, nothing but the truth. My name is Valkyria. I am one of the witnesses from January 20th, 1996. I was with my sister Liliane and our friend Katya. We were leaving work when we spotted a creature. This creature was different, unknown to us, and frightening. When I looked into its eyes, I felt like it was very afraid. Just as we were scared, there was a terror in its gaze. Brown with red eyes, its body shining, as if covered in oil. That day marked our lives forever. I swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. My name is Luisa Helena da Silva. I'm the mother of the two girls who saw the being. 30 minutes later, I got there with Katya, who was crying a lot. I saw the footprint. There was grass and the footprint. Like this, with only 3 long toes. It was gone by then, but one thing remained. The smell of that place stayed in my nose for about 20 to 25 days. Sometime after the girls saw the being, I had a visit from 4 unknown men. 4 men dressed in black. They came in and made this proposition. That if I accepted the money, showing me the briefcase, we would be millionaires for the rest of our lives. Some strange money I'd never seen. A briefcase this wide and this tall. One opened it, the others observed. I don't think they spoke our language. Only one spoke. He said that was a lot of cash and that we'd be rich, that we had to leave here, if I accepted. That I'd go on television, bring the girls and lie. He gave examples, say they saw a calf, a sick dog, a sick human. I got very scared. There was no dignity in that. So I asked them to leave. I was very scared of them. I could never lie like that. I did not see it, but to say the girls saw nothing, that's just too much. That's all I have to say. I swear what I'm about to say is the most correct truth, the factual truth. My name is Nadia. I'm a journalist and director of TV Princesa, where I work since that time. In January 1996, on the 20th, I was working. And right after leaving, I learned about the sighting in the city. I went to investigate it, but was prevented by ESA soldiers. They wouldn't let me go up to the location. As a local, I know where things happen. I wanted to see. I stopped the car, got out on foot, and still could not pass. When I asked why, they said it was a matter of national security. But it's my freedom of movement. You can't pass. After that, on Sunday, people had more sightings. I went to Regional Hospital because I heard of the activity there. I saw the commotion of the doctors. And most importantly, at that moment when I was near the location of the events, I heard people in the woods as if they were running. And two phrases stuck with me. Surrounded, surrounded. Another responded, it's smooth, it's smooth. These things stayed with me for a long time. I sent 2 journalists to a press conference held by ESA. They wanted to cover it up, say it was just a military drill or maintenance for the trucks. I instructed my reporters, ask exactly about this, what happened, be insistent. Their answer, keep asking about this and you will be arrested. To me, there was a cover-up process that's still ongoing for now. Many have similar accounts but are still afraid to talk about what happened. I am Italo Venturelli, aware that what I will share is the truth, nothing but the truth. I've been a doctor for 46 years. In 1996, on January 20th, I was called to see a patient. Getting there, I realized it was a being not of this planet. I was called to give my opinion on the case. Assessing it medically, conscious, no pain, no bleeding, breathing well, very calm and tranquil, resembling a 7-year-old, white, no bad odor. The head was large, teardrop-shaped. A small mouth, one hand under the sheet, the other out. The eyes weren't red, they were lilac, also teardrop-shaped. Looking at me very calmly, not agitated, aggressive, or in pain. I think not afraid either. He seemed to understand the situation. A beautiful gaze, one without judgment. Twice he looked at me, then to the window, then at me again. I stood about 60 inches from him. I didn't touch, but I was close. His way of looking suggested an intelligence greater than ours, than human. He understood, despite his defenseless position. He was not afraid. He understood what was happening. He likely had some purpose for being there. The truth is, I am an eyewitness. I saw the being. Say what you want, joke, mock, but I saw him lying there in front of me. It is important to highlight this is not about money. This is what changes the very concept of humanity. A being from another place. I was called by chance to see another patient, and I saw it. It's important for people to know this. Those who say they've seen a spacecraft, we really saw it. It's not easy to be here on camera talking about this. They ask and ask, it feels like we are lying, insisting. I have sworn I saw it, and I did. I want the younger generation to believe that this indeed exists. I swear what I will say is the truth, the pure truth. I was in the Army in 1996 during the Varginha ET incident. I participated in the transportation and also saw the extraterrestrial. I performed the transport. But first, before transporting the being, I went in the first door, then the second door of the hospital where I saw a being. Later came reports that it was simply the extraterrestrial. With that, I transported it from Varginha to Tres Caracos. from Tres Caracos to Campinas, where I left the vehicle and other soldiers took over. Later, upon returning to Tres Caracos, there was talk that the Americans had the creature, having transported it to an undisclosed location. I swear to tell the truth, only the truth. I am Marta, sister of soldier Marco Eli Cheris, who died in '96 after participating in the capture of the ET. My brother was 23 and served in the P2 unit. I am convinced many people think this case is fantasy. But it's not. It's a serious matter. My brother did take part in this and died. The cause is undefined to this day, but we will bring clarity. Whatever the cost or time, nothing stays in the shadows. I would like for people who know more to come forward and share the truth. I lost a piece that can never be restored. I want the government and authorities to reveal what happened that day. Why hide it? I know some may not understand it, but I believe the majority will. I'm waiting for an answer from society, the population, perhaps fellow soldiers can talk. Today, I await. Let's hope those who come out do it confidently, with explicit declarations. As hard as it may be, that the truth be told. There are several elements to this entire case and the stories that are coming forward that are very convincing to me that this event actually occurred. And I couldn't help but notice how much of it was familiar to the Roswell incident that happened in New Mexico, or the Corona crash, with Jesse Marcel and his son and other witnesses that were also trying to come forward to tell the story over multiple decades, and they've been getting suppressed and getting intimidated by certain elements of these secret programs to not tell their stories. But there is video witness testimony from some of the people there, including Jesse Marcel himself and his son, talking about that UFO crash and what they saw. And I think if you listen to these comparisons between the two incidents, I would begin to believe personally that they are the two most credible UFO crash and UAP recovery incidents that have occurred in history. And so all of this, as it's developing, it's important that we compare the pieces of the puzzle to see what lines up, to see a clear picture.
I found one piece of metal, what looked like metal anyway. It was not flexible, but it was as thin as a foil in a pack of cigarettes. It was that thin. One of my boys told me, he said, there's something unusual here. He said, I tried to make a dent in this metal. He said, you can't bend it. You can't make a mark on it. He says, I took a sledgehammer and whammed it. I put it on the ground and whammed it. The sledgehammer bounced off of it. He told me not to say anything. He says, I'll handle it from now on. And that's exactly what he did. When he came out, he said, he told the press that was there, he said, that was nothing but a weather balloon, crashed weather balloon. It was definitely not a weather balloon. And it was an aircraft. So what it could have been, I wouldn't know. I still don't know.
They took pictures, of course. They had a whole flock of microphones there. They wanted me they wanted some comments from me, but I wasn't at liberty to do that. So all I could do is keep my mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who discussed, or told the newspapers, the newsmen, what it was, and to forget about it. It was nothing more than a weather observation balloon. Of course, which we both knew differently. We left Roswell perhaps around 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As you can see, it's flat. It is very difficult. In fact, With just verbal directions, we never would have found it. We had to follow the rancher out there. The following morning, we went out to the site where the crash was. And what I saw, I couldn't believe there was so much of it. It was scattered over such a vast area. So we proceeded to pick up as much of the debris as we could, loaded in the wagon. We filled that up. It took us a good part of the day to do that, because there's such small fragments that we had to do a lot of picking. We found a piece of metal about a 1.5 to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes. But the thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it, you couldn't dent it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and in our air travel. This is nothing like that. It could not be. It could not have been.
Sleep, for one thing. I want to say it was very early hours. It was either very late in the evening or very early in the morning when he came back here. And I had awakened both myself and my mother.
And why did he wake you both up?
He had something he wanted to show us. This apparently was some debris or something he brought in from the field at that time. And I understand he was on his way to the air base to deliver this, but he felt that this was unusual enough that he wanted us to see it first before he delivered it to its proper destination.
And what happened? What happened after he woke you up?
Well, he was, as I recall, very excited, and again he said, "I want to show you something." And so I got my house coat on, as did my mother, and he had gone out to the car and brought back in some metallic debris. I believe it was in a box. I know. I don't recall whether I walked outside with him or not, but he made it seem like the 1942 Buick we had was loaded with the stuff in the back seat and in the trunk area. At any rate, he brought the material in and spread it on the kitchen floor, and in an effort to try to piece it together like a jigsaw puzzle to get some idea of the form of this, but unfortunately there was too much of it, too finely divided to do that.
How old were you at the time?
11.
And when he spread all this material out on the floor, what was your impression about what this material was like? How would you describe it?
Well, initially, just looking at it, well, what's this all about? You know, sleep, you know. But then when you get down and looking at it, it was the unusual character of the debris. And I want to say that he said something like, "This is from a flying saucer," but I'm not sure that he said that. But the meaning was clear that this is something very special, and he wanted us to look at it.
And what's your recollection about what the material looks like, felt like?
Well, I could divide it into three major categories. I'm thinking back on it quite a few times. There was a lot of rather thick foil-like material, kind of not a shiny aluminum, but burnished or a slate gray type of aluminum metal. There was black plastic type debris like bakelite, which was shattered. It was very brittle material. And then there were fragments of what appeared to be I-beams, relatively small, but the typical I-beam type configuration.
Let's talk a little bit about each category in a little bit of detail, if you will. Let's talk about first the foil-like substance. What was the size of this material?
Well, I don't recall seeing any piece that was greater than 4 to 6 inches in circumference or in diameter. I don't recall whether I tried to test it for being able to tear it or bend it or anything like that. In fact, it was very light, and again, a dull metallic gray color. And there was a lot of that.
How thick would you describe this material?
Well, it was thicker than the usual kind of kitchen foil. I guess there's newer foil out now for heavy-duty use that is used in storing food, and that's approximately what it is like.
In terms of thickness?
In terms of thickness.
Any other similarities to everyday household items that people?
Well, it's metallic, you know, it's about all I can say. Not shiny.
And the pieces of the foil-like substance, what shape were they?
Well, it was shredded, at least, you know, torn.
So irregular in shape?
Irregular, right.
And there was a lot of this material?
Well, enough to cover the floor with.
Was this...
and more, because there's a lot more left to the car.
That's what I was going to ask. He didn't bring in all
Oh,
of them?
no. That was only one portion he had in the car.
Okay. The weight of this material you described as light, would you say that it was unusually light, lighter than you would expect, or heavier, or anything at all unusual about its weight?
Well, feathers. Very, very light.
Very light.
In other words, you could take a piece and it wouldn't just fall to the floor, but it kind of drift down fairly slow like a feather almost.
No, that's very interesting.
And
did you actually see that?
No, I did not, but this is what, you know, I would have thought it would be like, you know, if I would have done that. I would feel like it was slow.
Light as a feather. Interesting. The what you described as almost plastic or bake-like material. Tell me a little more about that.
Well, it was black, brown in color. Again, irregular pieces. About a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit greater in thickness, and brittle. At least I suspect it was brittle because it shattered like glass.
I want to make sure I understand. You didn't actually see it shatter,
no,
but it appeared to have been shattered.
Yeah, I didn't try to bend or test any of these things I saw. I just picked them up gently and handled them.
Anything else unusual? What about the weight of this material? Plastic.
It was very light also. You know, it's kind of hard to, I don't recall this, comparing it with other.
Anything else worthy of comment about this material? Would you recall?
Basically just the description of the color, shatter type, bake-like material. Yeah.
And how about what you described as I-beams? What were those like?
Well, they were, again, looked like the same type of material that the foil-like material is made of. Metallic, dull gray aluminum, except very light again. I did not try to bend it or stress it in any way, although the piece I remember looking at was about 12 to 18 inches in length. Both ends, I think, were shattered or broken off, wasn't a clean cut. And the material thickness appeared to be about a 1/16 of an inch thickness.
And what color was it?
Again, it's a dull gray, like a flat aluminum finish, I guess would be a good way to describe that.
Metallic?
Metallic, definitely metallic.
Anything else unusual about this particular piece of material?
Well, the most unusual part of this whole thing was what was on the I-beam, on the inner surface of the I-beam. Because as you look at it head-on, there appeared to be a type of writing on the mainframe itself. This writing was definitely a purplish violet hue. It did have an embossed appearance because you could, if I recall, you could rub your finger along it and you could tell it had texture. I don't recall seeing any lines or letters of any kind, but it was more like geometric shapes. Or, well, it's hard to describe it. It was curved geometric shapes. There might have been some triangles and circles, but it was solid.
Is it possible you might have mistaken it for Russian, Japanese, any other language?
No way.
Anything like hieroglyphics?
Well, in my first impression was this is Egyptian hieroglyphics, but I knew enough at that time to know that it wasn't, because hieroglyphics usually have some animal symbols in it also, but there was none.
And the lettering, or we can call it lettering, of these
Yeah,
symbols.
Individual symbols. They were not connected.
Were they were in color?
Yeah, yes.
But they were on a surface that was what?
Well, the surface was the same color as the rest-nighting, dull metallic gray.
So it's just the symbols that were in a kind of purple pink.
That's right. That was the color that caught your eye. Hearing all this mass of metallic gray pieces, here's this flash of color.
What do you recall your father saying that night about how he came into possession of this material?
I don't recall a whole lot of the mechanics or the logistics involved. I do know he'd been gone for quite a while. I'm not sure exactly how long he'd been gone even, but if I remember saying something about this came from Christ site or from some fellow's ranch here northwest of Roswell.
And you said at the outset that he appeared to be excited.
Yeah, that's the reason he got us up out of bed.
Why was he excited about this?
Because he felt this was something very unusual. He felt it was probably something we'd never seen before, would never see again. And again, I want to say that he said the words flying saucer, but I cannot be sure about that. I'm almost positive he did, but I can't recall verbatim what he said.
When you said that your father had been gone for some time, do you mean hours or days or something?
Again, my memory's kind of hazy about how long he was gone. I know he was maybe more than 12 hours, maybe a day or so.
And how long was he at your home that night with the material on the floor?
The total time there was about 15 or 20 minutes.
And what happened after that?
Loaded it back in the car and took off.
Do you know where he went?
Well, he was going back to the base. So that was my understanding.
When did you next see him? Do you recall?
I think it was the next day, although I'm not absolutely sure about that either.
And did you have any conversation with him about what had transpired since you had seen him last?
Well, he would, I'm trying to recall those conversations. I don't know that we had talked about it very much afterwards. The initial excitement had worn off, and then the whole deal kind of was put to rest.
And then there was two MPs that joined me right on, took me outside, and each holding me by my elbows, and they escorted me out back to the ambulance and followed me all the way back to the funeral home.
Now, as you were entering the hospital, you saw something in 3 trucks.
Yeah, because usually where I parked, there was 3 field ambulances parked in the area where I usually park, where we back up to the ramps. So I just pulled up to the side in front of those and parked out in the front, and the airman and I got out and walked in. So when I got up, went up the steps and up the ramp, and I was walking, going into the emergency room, I noticed that the doors were open, but what was odd about it, there was an MP standing beside each one of the vehicles in the back, just standing there. And the doors were open. Naturally, I was curious, and, I just happened to look in. That's when I saw some debris that looked like parts of a plane or something that they hadn't had a crash. Because I've seen them do this a lot of times, bring in pieces and the old ambulances in.
Can you describe the debris?
Yeah, I noticed in 2 of the ambulances there was some debris that was probably 2.5 to 3 feet, long and probably high, that was propped up on the side of the ambulance there. They were kind of in the shape of maybe like a half a canoe. They were like the front part of a canoe. And, it looked like it might be aluminum, but it looked more like the metal looked more like stainless steel that had been heated. It was blue, kind of a bluish tint to it. But what was odd about it, it looked like around the curved part in the front of the canoe, there was some designs or something that kind of reminded me of maybe some Egyptian signs or whatever. And it was probably about 3 inches and high, and probably the length of what the wreckage I saw, it looked like it was the length. And the same thing was in the other ambulance too. I mean, I saw practically the same thing. The pieces that were practically the same size, and the insignias looked like whatever that might be was part of the wreckage.
How did your friend feel about what she saw?
Well, I didn't know really until the next day. And I called out. I kept trying to get a hold of her because naturally I was curious and I wanted to know what was going on. And so I called out the next day, and then probably around 11:30, she said, "I know you've been trying to get a hold of me, but I haven't been available." And she said, "Why don't you meet me at the officers club? If you have time, meet at the officers club, and we'll have lunch. And I want to talk to you." And the funeral home we had at that time, we had some of the businesses there had an associate membership to the officers club, and our funeral home had that membership, and also had a card to identify myself and what business that I was, associated with. So I had no problem. One time I'd go to base, all I had to do, a lot of times if it was in the evening, I'd have to stop and sign a visitor's and get a visitor's pass and then turn it in when I left. But it was no problem going out there. So I went on out and met her. Beg your pardon?
Tell me about lunch.
Well, we, both ordered. I'm not sure, remember what we ordered, but it was just a light lunch. But she was so upset. She looked like she was, in shock, is what she really talked like and looked like. And I said, "Well, I was just curious. The only reason I want to talk to you was curious on what happened." And she said, "Well, you won't believe it." And she says, "I don't believe it either." But she said, "I got in a lot of trouble on this thing. I'm not real sure about this." But she said, then she pulled out of a little purse or little pocketbook, whatever she had there. She gave me a little diagram that she had drawn some figures of some arms and face and so on. She told me that this is what was in those, that it was a crash. It wasn't an airplane, but they didn't know what it was at that time.
These were bodies.
Yeah, but she said we have 3 bodies. That there was 3 bodies. She said 2 of them were very mutilated. One looked like it might have walked out, or that it, might have lived a little while. And she explained they were like 3.5 feet to 4 feet tall. The 2 of the bodies were you couldn't identify much because they were practically destroyed, and it looked like maybe that they might have been a predatory animal or something might have been doing some damage on the bodies too.
How did she describe their head and their hands?
Well, she said the head, and then the little drawings that I had, the way she explained it and the way she drew it, that the heads were somewhat larger than a human heads. The hands were long, no thumbs. It was just the long, very delicate fingers at the end of on the underside at the tip of each fingers was a pad-like, maybe a little pad, but it looked like the skin had maybe little suction, like the little suction cups on those. On the, no fingernails on the hands. The head, the lips were just a long, narrow, more or less, not full lips like we would have in most of our people, but very fine lined, very fine lips. There was no teeth. That was the inside of the mouth. It was kind of like a real a gums. Maybe it was. She said to explain it. It was almost as hard as if it was rawhide. Maybe, at that. The ears. There was only 2 small orifices on each side of the head with looked like a couple of small lobes that might cover both of those. But there was not a protruding ear. And also that the nose, there was only 2 small orifices in the nose. There there was really no nose that was convex. It was all just flush with the face.
Was she emotional about all this?
Very much so. Very emotional. She would have to stop and drink water every once in a while, and also she never touched a meal all the time we were talking in an hour and a half that we were there. She never touched her meal.
Any other demonstrations of emotion? Indications of how she was upset?
Well, just, every once in a while she'd go like this, and wringing her hands, and she said it was the most I've never been so horrified in my life. I've never seen anything so gruesome in my life. I've never smelt anything that smelt worse in my life. And she told me that when I saw her, she was leaving the room to go to the bathroom because she was deathly ill and was going to throw up.
Did she recognize any of the doctors by the examining the body?
She told me, she said, I asked her that question, which of the doctors, and she said, I don't know that I knew them, and that was her answer. So, but she said she walked in the room and they said, hey, we need you, you need to help us. And that was the way she became involved in it. And then she got ill. The doctors also became very ill. They would have to do a little examination, then they'd have to leave and go sit down, and then they would come back and do a little bit more. It was that bad.
After your conversation with her at lunch, can you describe what happened next? How you were unable to see her again, and how you learned the...
Well, yeah, we'd visited a while, and then I had to get back to the funeral home, go back to work, but then I never did see her after that. And I called out the next day to see how she was feeling, and they told me that she wasn't available. Then I wouldn't be available that day. I called the next day, and they told me that she'd been transferred.
My name is Jacques Vallée. I'm speaking at the request of Mr. James Fox, because a few years ago I initiated the system of multiple databases used by a DIA-sponsored program at Bigelow Aerospace as a cleared member of a scientific team charged with study of UFO, UAP phenomena. The data warehouse system contained data about 260,000 screened reports of anomalous objects in flight, and hundreds of reports of creatures, live or dead, associated with crashed or landed vehicles of unknown provenance, including some similar to those in Virginia, thus providing useful multinational and historical context. My current research is taking us to deeper levels with new on-site analytical and physical research on historical cases, such as the 1945 case in San Antonio, New Mexico, the 1964 case in Socorro, New Mexico, also, and the 1965 case in Valençol in France. In those and several others, new physical and environmental data was collected. The observations involve a total of 7 creatures, generally similar in size and general body shape to those described by the witnesses in Varginha, Brazil, and by Mr. Fox, providing both context and statistical support for current and future findings. In particular, all the creatures just mentioned breathed air normally. Beyond this, I currently serve in a private capacity on the Scientific Advisory Board of the French Government National Center for Space Studies, CNES. That unit has actively researched the UFO problem since 1975, including national cases of close encounters with the presence of occupants, a number of which I have also studied on site. It should be clear, however, that I do not represent any of these government organizations in this or any other context. The Varginha incident of 1996 in Brazil, researched and documented by James Fox, fits within cases already known in scientific and medical records, many of which have remained classified. Relaxing the classification requirements while preserving security of essential facilities such as the nuclear labs would make it possible to inform and enlist the scientific community at a higher level. Action by the executive branch to allow more open exchange would be world-changing. As the Varginha case proves, allowing more open contact at an international level would yield better understanding of the global issues. The current segmentation of the data hinders any serious research into what appears to be an extraterrestrial phenomenon empowered by advanced artificial intelligence. Open archives do exist to some extent, describing the physical and biological environment of the crafts and their occupants. Socorro and Valensol in particular, two unclassified cases officially deemed unidentified by multiple government agencies, have yielded evidence of traces, recovered materials, and environmental effects. But we know that much more is available. The Varginha case presents exceptional new knowledge beyond what was already known. It improves our information in two fundamental ways. First, in the ability to reconstruct what happened to the craft and its occupants from beginning to end. And second, in the professional description of the anatomical and behavioral features of the live creature recovered by authorities within a short time of the crash and to the point of its death. By this achievement, James' long and perilous project has opened up an entirely new field of research.
As usual, I want all of you to stay skeptical and to decide for yourself what in all of this is real and what isn't. I personally find the dots connecting the more and more that people that are firsthand witnesses of these incidents step forward to tell their stories. These are people that have nothing to gain out of this. It seems like if anything, their careers are on the line. It's very emotional for them to even discuss or to talk about. And many of them have been threatened with guns even pointed in their face and told not to talk. One of the underlying things about both of these incidents, especially the Varginha UFO incident, that I take away from this, especially from the testimony of the doctor that dealt with this entity in the hospital, is that these entities appeared to be highly intelligent and innocent, and that they seemed to be somehow pleasant to work with or to communicate with. There's this telepathic communication that occurs that seems to affect the deepest parts of the people involved just by looking into their eyes, communicating telepathically with them. It does not appear that these entities are hostile. It doesn't appear to me that they have ill intent against humanity. It seems that they are here observing us. They're watching us. They're trying to help us along as a humanity and to develop our own awareness and consciousness. And it does not seem like they have negative intentions. For me personally, I highly disagree with this argument that aliens and UFOs are demonic. My personal experience with the phenomena, even from scary incidents when I was a child and encountered different entities and experiences and near-death experiences, out-of-body travel, and encounters with different beings, I would say that even though I might have been scared because I didn't know what was going on, I was never harmed. Nothing bad ever really happened to me, and I can't say anything bad about these experiences. I highly disagree with the argument that a lot of people that come out of these systems of organized religion, that they claim that the UFOs and the non-human intelligences are somehow demonic and that these are evil and that we are being duped into communicating with them through telepathy and through psionic contact. I personally believe from my own experience and the people that I've worked with that have encountered the same things, that these are benevolent entities for the most part. Now, there might be split off groups or negative factions or other elements of it, just like there is in humanity. But I think generally speaking, that our encounters with these entities are positive. And I know that Stephen Greer has also come forward on multiple occasions to try and warn us that these threats, that there's going to be an alien invasion, that it's going to be a hostile invasion, that all of these kinds of doomsday and demonic claims about these encounters are completely false, and that that is the actual psyop that is going on in order to suppress us from our own understanding as a human species. It is an attempt to try and scare us away as a human population from developing our own consciousness and our own spirituality and from expanding our understanding of the universe. So I think we have to all overcome our fears. I talk a lot about this in my new book that's going to be coming out, Psionic Contact, where I discuss how all of these impressions come from ourselves and our own intentions and our own mindset going into it. If you go into these encounters and these situations with a lot of fear and a lot of prejudice, with a lot of these ideas that these entities are demonic, then you're going to be projecting your own psychic energy into the situation to make it possibly a bad one with your own interpretations. But if you're able to lift your prejudice against these other beings and what they're doing and what their intentions are, and you approach it with love and understanding, with a higher level of intellect and spirituality, you will realize that what it does is tap into the core of who we are and what we're actually capable of. Underneath all of this is the secrets of psionic abilities, the fact that humanity has telepathic abilities and that we are evolving into that understanding and awakening. And there are dark forces within the government and the compartmentalized factions of these corporations and special interest groups that want to own this knowledge. They want to patent it. They want to control it in order to benefit themselves and to get rich off of these programs, the technology. And the last thing that they want is for regular people like you and I to develop telepathic abilities, to develop remote viewing, out-of-body travel, and astral projection, because then they can no longer hold all the rights and all the patents and all the legal control over it. It is something that will be freely accessible to humanity, and that we will be able to connect to one another, that we'll be able to expand into the greater quantum multiverse that we are actually within and that we're experiencing right now, that we will transcend out of just this three-dimensional reality and the secrets that they're trying to hide underground and in their secret laboratories and down in the basements, and all of these dark things that they've done in the past will get exposed. How can they hide these secrets and the things that they know if people like you and I are walking around with telepathic abilities and clairvoyance and able to see through their lies, to see their secrets and see the horrible things that they've done in the past? So I think all of this has to come down to us. and our intentions and our ability to lift our understanding, to have positive intentions, and to connect with ourselves and consciousness at a higher level.